Well, hello everybody, how are you doing? Welcome back, as always, to Rule of Two Review. Today, we're going to discuss all things Nintendo Switch. So I have to say, this is a really great day for me to make this video because I am in a super fantastic mood. And if you've been following me on Twitter or any of the videos the last week or so, you know why. Because this morning, I was lucky enough to beat, for the 10th time, what I think is probably my 10th time, Metroid Prime, the greatest game ever made. And obviously, like I said, this is like my 10th time going through the game, but since E3, since Metroid Prime 4, Samus Returns, all these announcements, I've just been so overwhelmed with how much I just love Metroid and Samus, and I've missed experiencing these games. So I went back and I went through Metroid Prime literally in pretty much this last week. I was probably 20% through that playthrough by the time I picked it up again after E3, to be fair. But, I mean, literally in probably a week, I went through all the rest of that game just this morning, finished that final Metroid Prime battle, which is so good, one of, if not the best, final boss I've probably ever played in a game. So anyway, I don't want to gush too much about it. It just feels really great to have done that this morning before getting on camera and discussing more Nintendo and Switch stuff for you. So if for any reason you have not blessed yourself with a playthrough of the original Metroid Prime, bearing in mind that all three Prime games are fantastic, and I am moving myself right to Prime 2 in the next day or so as well, you definitely need to do it. Now's a great time. Metroid Prime 4 has everyone so excited. And I should probably just shut up because I've talked about Metroid non-stop pretty much since E3, and that's not really what this is about. So, we can just get right into this. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch, and all things Nintendo Switch, the current state of the console. What is happening with Nintendo as a company, with the Switch as a device. Lots of conversation, lots of things happening during the week of E3, and definitely in the week and a half, I want to say, since E3. Specifically, even on like the YouTube and Twitter community and stuff, a lot of things happening. Everyone has a lot of very staunch, very strong opinions about all things going on with the Switch. And I understand why, because, you know, a lot of us, we love Nintendo. This is like the Nintendo community. And currently, in just the gaming industry, it's a very big deal that Nintendo, one of the three major players and the oldest player in the business, has a brand new machine, a brand new piece of hardware on the market. It's a very big deal, especially in a year where we're going to get a second new hardware launch with the Xbox One X at the end of the year. So E3 has come and gone, and what's very interesting to me, what I've been kind of seeing happening and why I wanted to start thinking about how to make a video and what kind of topic I wanted to frame the conversation around. You know, during the week of E3, everything went great, specifically for Nintendo, and for the Switch, and even the 3DS, obviously. Like, everyone was feeling really great about that stuff. And, you know, what's interesting is, as much as I loved E3 as a whole, I thought everyone did great, kind of except for EA, but I think everyone did great. Nintendo, in my opinion, absolutely killed it. But as great as it was, there were certainly some holes in Nintendo's current business model and in their plans that were exposed through that. The biggest one, obviously, and I even discussed it recently as well, is what's happening with third-party ports and third-party multiplats coming over to Nintendo and the Switch right now. It's a pretty big deal. There's a lot of stuff not happening there that's a lot of us, myself included, absolutely think should be happening. But beyond that, you know, I still feel like Nintendo's doing a lot of the right things, and I feel like there's a huge talking point to be had over where the Switch is headed currently, where it is currently, what's happening well, what's happening not so well. And that's kind of what sparked this idea in my head. So I'm only going to speak for myself here in this video. This is just me with no real plan or structure. You know, a lot of times for probably more than half of my videos, I think, oh, okay, like this is probably the next topic I want to discuss. I frame it as a question. I sometimes even give myself a couple of notes of some of the beats I want to make sure that I remember to hit throughout my conversation. And then I go. With this one, I didn't really want to do that. I kind of was like, you know, I'm just going to talk about the Switch, you know, during and after E3, where Nintendo's at right now, and I'm just going to kind of turn the camera on and go. I didn't really think too much about where I was going to, what beats I'd want to hit or topics I wanted to hit. It was really just, I just want to share whatever natural thoughts about the Switch came out of my mouth and came from my brain as I decided to talk to you guys about it. So, you know, I'm not here to like vindicate anyone's opinions like, oh, these people feel this way about Nintendo currently, so I'm here to champion these ideas, or these people feel this way about Nintendo, so I'm here to, like, you know, vindicate debate and get angry about these or whatever. That's not really what I'm trying to do, so I hope that you're not coming to this video and coming to me to be like, oh, I want to hear Rob say exactly how I feel and talk about why how I feel is also important. That's just not how I roll. I mean, you might feel that way with how I talk, but that's not my goal. I'm just BSing about Nintendo and the Switch, in my opinion, as one gamer. I'm just one gamer. You're another gamer. Your friends are other gamers. Everyone else who watches these and other videos on YouTube, everyone's different gamers with different opinions and different desires, and that's totally cool. So in further sharing just kind of where I'm at currently with the Switch and what I see as a gamer, as a Nintendo fan, and someone who's been doing this for over 30 years, I think the Switch is in a fantastic place right now, you guys. You know, problems or not, holes with the business model or not, which are definitely both very present with Nintendo, with all companies, and yes, also with Nintendo. I personally am coming off of E3. I feel great about Nintendo. Now, full disclosure, you hear me say that I'm really happy with where Nintendo's at coming off of E3. Well, I had some fanboy moments during E3, and I have no problem admitting that that's probably coloring part of my opinion, but I don't really care. That's how we form opinions in our brains about video games or movies or comic books or TV shows or, I don't know, our families. Like, you just use who you are and the things you enjoy and desire to decide how you feel about things. So for me, having 2 Metroid games and one of them being Prime 4 come out of E3, yeah, I was on cloud 9, and that's definitely part of the reason that I feel so great about Nintendo's E3 and where the Switch is going currently. Now, luckily, I can look at things objectively as well and say there are other reasons why. Let's say Prime 4 was never announced. I feel like if a different, you know, medium quality game was in place of that Metroid Prime 4 announcement at E3, I would have felt still pretty good. Obviously, maybe not over the moon about Nintendo's current direction after E3, but still very, very positive, because I think everything else around it was still great. What they've done and what they've showed is right now, and this word is maybe going to trigger some people in what the current climate is right now around Nintendo, but what they're doing right now is showing amazing first-party support that Nintendo themselves internally was prepared to launch a brand new console. They were like, you know, we can't rely maybe on a lot of these third-party multi-platform games or third-party companies yet within the first year or so of our next machine. We can't stop making hardware, or we don't want to stop making hardware just because the Activisions and the EAs of the world maybe aren't on board the way we want. We still want to exist as a video game manufacturer and a console manufacturer, so let's start making our new machine anyway. Okay, well, we've turned this into the Switch. It's going to be the Switch, and it'll come out in March 2017. That's what it is. Well, maybe we're still struggling to get some of these other folks on board to make games for us yet. They're interested, but not quite yet giving us what we want. And I'm, of course, making up all this in my head. Some of it could be true, some of it could be not be, just like everyone's opinions that's been being shared. No one truly knows. But what could have been happening is, you know, without these companies, we still need to release our Switch console in March 2017. Let's make sure we still have a healthy dose of software that we're creating, that we make all the revenue off of, and that we know our gamers are going to want, and even other non-Nintendo gamers might be interested in. Let's have Zelda, let's have Mario, let's have Fire Emblem Warriors, let's have a new IP, let's have Splatoon 2, you know, and boom. And then there even is a couple of third-party games peppered there as well. I mean, I've got Ultra Street Fighter right here, and I think it's great. A little too pricey, but still really, really good. And so I see a Nintendo that made sure that they themselves were prepared to launch a console successfully, sell out of them as quick as they possibly could, and have software to play, regardless of what, you know, company's tree you're picking these titles off of, the Activision tree, the Ubisoft tree, the Nintendo tree. Regardless of that, if you separate yourself from that, there's games to play. I mean, there's actually a lot of games to play. And problems with Nintendo or the Switch aside, to me, that is one of, if not maybe the most important aspect that I see when thinking about Nintendo and the Switch right now. I also see a company who's incredibly strong with its marketing and advertising. We've all talked about this. Nintendo is doing the best job on this that they've done since probably 2007 or 2008, in the couple of years after the Wii launched, because we all know they knocked that out of the park as well at that time, mid-2000s, and for what that console was supposed to be. What the Wii was supposed to be, Nintendo did that right, hence the amazing success. And it's like the second best home console seller of all time, That's a big deal. And we see a similar Nintendo. They're marketing, obviously, to different people and in different ways because the Switch is a very different machine, catered to a different kind of audience. The gamer is a different gamer nowadays, too, than they were 10 years ago, than a lot of us were 10 years ago. Some people gaming now probably weren't even gaming or maybe even alive 10 years ago. There are people, obviously, kids that young play, and they're influencing their families and parents to buy machines that maybe they even would like. And the great thing is the Switch has been designed and marketed in such a way that it appeals to all these people. And it's doing really well. And it's nice to see a Nintendo in a modern day 2017 setting that understands how to do this again. You know, they really dropped the ball with the Wii U, which I still think is a great console. We can all poop on it now because it's the cool thing to do because the Switch is 1,000 times better, absolutely. But for myself, as somebody who was playing on my Xbox, PlayStation, and Wii U throughout that whole time, I love the Wii U. I still do. I've got like 24 games or something for it. I mean, great console, but Nintendo just did so much wrong with it, unfortunately. And you know what? It was an important system. That system will probably go down in history as the most important 4-year period almost ever in Nintendo's history because of how they were able to come through on the other side. And what's great about the Switch is that we see a Nintendo that was able to learn from mistakes. We see a Nintendo that's able to stumble in a modern day, but not completely shit the bed, not completely have to step out of the console manufacturing market, not have to go third party, not have to leave gaming or even close its doors, period, despite having such a failure that the Wii U was. They came out on the other side a bigger, better, stronger Nintendo. I've made this joke before. I don't think I've made it on camera, but they're basically like the Super Saiyan of the video game industry because they took a beating, they got real weak, battle damage to hell during that 4.5, 5 years of the Wii U, and then they've come out on the other side, they've healed from that battle, and now they're stronger than they ever were before. They literally went from like Goku to Super Saiyan Goku. That was like the Namek battle. As far as I'm concerned, Wii U period was the Frieza battle on Namek, and they've come out the other side Super Saiyan Goku, and that's not a lot. That's not something I think a lot of other companies could probably say. I mean, Microsoft is a different story. I've talked about it before. I think they have the money and the capital and the resources to survive whatever sorts of failure of a console they want to. That's how they basically bought themselves into the industry in 2001 with the Xbox, which wasn't really successful and definitely didn't make them money, but they just kept going because they had the money to do so. Sony and their PlayStation division, I would think if they went through something that was a failure on a similar level to what the Wii U was, very likely, can't say for sure, but very likely that they might have had to say, yeah, we're done with this. We're out. We just, you know, we can't do this. We can't afford it. It's not good for us. It's not healthy. We lost too much money. Nintendo very smartly has its own business strategy built around where it's getting its revenue from, how it's licensing out its IPs, what the 3DS and handheld stuff is doing, the fact that despite the Wii U selling so poorly, they sold crazy amounts of first-party software, which is, again, all profit right to Nintendo. They're not splitting that with a third-party developer. So I don't want to make this part any more long in the tooth. The point is, they've shown that they're a smart, resilient company, and I believe in what they're trying to do with the Switch right now. I think that based on their software lineup, based on what the console is, and based on what their marketing is, they're a smart company leading the Switch and themselves into a better direction. Now, what about the problems with the Switch? What about the problems with Nintendo's business model? What are they doing wrong? What didn't go well at E3? We all know the answers to these, and I even alluded to some of them already in this video. But, you know, it ultimately breaks down to about 3 major things that I think that they're doing wrong or are problems, and are definitely things that I kind of wish Nintendo was treating a little bit differently and a little bit more importantly. The first I'll mention, which is probably the least important of these 3 things to me, is the power of the machine. I am more than happy with the power of the machine. I don't need a machine to be any more powerful than the Wii U or PS4 or Xbox One ever are. Like, if graphics and power never got better than the current consoles, Switch included, I'm fine. I'm getting games that are more than adequate with what I need in terms of how fun they are, how creative they are, and visually how some of the best looking games look. Hell, if Breath of the Wild was the best looking game ever made and graphics never got better, which they're already better than that, but let's just say Breath of the Wild was the peak and it never got better, that's cool. Like, I'm happy with that. That game was gorgeous. And then we're even still only talking about graphics. But the reason I still bring it up is because Nintendo, for the third generation in a row, is opting to put something that doesn't quite stand up to its direct competition in terms of power and visuals and teraflops and RAM and all this other GDR5, X5Y, LMNOP, whatever the hell crap goes into these things. Like, they've opted to stay behind the curve in that respect a little bit. The Switch is far from a slouch, and it definitely can play, I think, most of even what a lot of the third-party companies are making as multi-platform. So the benefit is that it's still capable, but without question, you'd have to think that a lot of the problems they're running into, maybe with software, might be because their system is a handheld and a console, and has to be therefore limited to what a handheld could do without making it, you know, $700 to purchase. And so that lack of power, I think, is definitely something that's potentially holding the console and Nintendo back currently. The other two things that I think Nintendo aren't doing well, and they didn't do anything at E3 to show us that this stuff is being immediately fixed, is obviously the third-party multi-platform situation. It's a big deal. It's been a big topic for a week now, and I understand why, because it is important, and it does matter. I've been saying this for a long time. And the other thing is what's happening with their online situation, their online infrastructure, the mobile app, the mysteries there, the fact that it doesn't sound really ideal or compelling, and it sounds more than cumbersome and something a lot of us don't want to have to deal with. So those are the biggest thing. The power being a little bit weak, the online infrastructure and the online situation we don't know yet, but it sounds like it might totally suck, and the third-party situation. So these are problems that exist right now, and it would have been nice, you know, I talked about this a couple of days ago. I'm going to try to link that video below. I think that going into E3, I was expecting to see more third-party games. You know, if we want to talk about the third-party thing real quick, I was expecting a third-party presence. Or at least more of a third-party presence at E3. Mostly at their spotlight, I was hoping to see that, but even if it was just throughout the show or at random announcements throughout that week or whatever, that would have been fantastic. Even more stuff from other developers on their stages, for example. And that didn't really happen. The good thing is, there are still some third-party games that we know that are coming. That Starlink game was announced as a multi-platform coming out for the Switch. We know about Skyrim. Rocket League was a huge thing to announce and to drop on us. FIFA is going to be a very interesting, important game to see release. Who knows where that's going to lead. I'm probably going to purchase it to buy and support EA bringing some of its stuff to the Nintendo Switch in the future. Like, I want Star Wars game on my Switch. Big time. Big time. So I have to support EA, and I know the FIFA series are good games, so I know I'm not dumping my money into something that's supposed to be garbage. The NBA 2K series is getting a fantastic day and date, fully featured gold edition multi-platform port of, you know, of NBA 2K18 or whatever that game is. Like, that's, you know, those things are happening, those things are coming, and, you know, Xenoverse 2, maybe Steep? Where is this freaking game, Ubisoft or Nintendo? Like, what the hell? I want this game. So, you know, they were present, but not in the way we expected. And that is a problem, because as much as I want to say Nintendo is doing great with first-party software, and Nintendo can absolutely continue mostly on third-party software and the occasional third-party exclusive, like Mario plus Rabbids, for example. That's a great example. Also, Fire Emblem Warriors, we can't forget that's first and third-party, by the way, just like Hyrule Warriors. So, you know, those things are happening, but Nintendo could really benefit from having the actual third-party multiplats that we want. And there's a whole conversation that I don't know that I should probably touch on right here. I do have feelings on it. Maybe I'll do it in a different video. You guys let me know if you want me to talk about this. There is a conversation about how the Wii U played out, how the third-party situation began on that console, what happened there, and if that's influencing what's happening now. That's a whole different tangent I'm not ready to go into yet on this video. But there is relevance to what's happening there for sure. But when we look at the here and right now, I think that it's important for Nintendo to have these games, and I do think it's a shame that coming off of E3, we didn't see that Battlefront 2 is coming. We didn't see that Destiny 2 is coming. Call of Duty, huge missed opportunity. But the key element here, leading into my point about all this, is it's a huge missed opportunity for Nintendo, and it's also a huge missed opportunity for Activision, because I think what's happening there is, and I talked about this on that video, I literally think that both Nintendo and the rest of the industry and these third-party companies are both at fault for why we're not seeing these games currently. And it's an important thing to take note of, you guys, and an important thing to pay attention to. I think that these third-party companies are really doing potential harm to themselves. Well, harm. They'll be fine without the Nintendo gamer, don't get me wrong. But I think that they're just missing a huge opportunity by not considering or bringing their games to the Nintendo console on the market currently. This thing, this crazy, weird-ass little portable home console Switch thing is going to continue to reach so many gamers that, you know, companies like Activision and EA, and Ubisoft is kind of on board, but, you know, these other companies that they're not really looking into, there's a lot of potential, like, revenue and sales that they can get from the Nintendo gamer or the people who are gaming on all consoles but would purchase these games on their Switch, like me. I've got my Xbox One and PS4. I love them. I play them all the time. I've got like 20 games between those two consoles, you guys. I support them and third-party companies and their games adamantly because I love them all. But I would buy Destiny 2 on my Switch. I would buy Call of Duty on my Switch. I would buy Battlefront 2 on my Switch. You know, these obvious games. Dark Souls, bring it to the Switch. Dragon Ball FighterZ, what the frickin' hell? Just bring that game over. Third-party companies, you guys also have money to make. You guys also have a net gain to take away from putting your stuff on this unique console that will reach new people that you previously can't reach with your PC, PlayStation, and Xbox versions. That's just a fact. And you've got this console selling well already. You know Nintendo's going to keep this momentum up with their own stuff. So I think it's really boneheaded for these companies to not be jumping on board and at least making announcements right now. Hey, we've decided to make a port of Call of Duty or Destiny. I keep using the same examples. I'm sorry, guys. But, you know, of XYZ game, we are going to be porting this game. Maybe it won't come out the same day because we made a last-minute decision to do it and we don't have time to get it out day one, but it's going to happen. To have at least been able to say that stuff would have been a huge deal. The fact that no one has decided to say that makes me think that right now, they're not bringing their games over to the Switch. And I think that they're the ones making a huge, huge mistake deciding not to do that. On the flip side, Nintendo, I think, probably has not been trying hard enough to let them know it is worth it for you to bring your game to our console. We're willing to help foot some of the bill. If it's money, you know, whatever. I don't know how much money has to exchange hands for, like, a console manufacturer to convince a third-party company to bring their game to their console. I don't know how that money breaks down, and I am 99% sure, no offense, you don't know it. Other YouTubers, good friends of mine making videos, none of us really know this. We're just assuming because we are armchair industry analysts here on YouTube with our cameras. So we want to pretend we know. It's so simple. Just pay for Destiny to come to the Switch. Well, yeah, that's probably part of how it could happen, but how much? What's the contract looks like? What's the buyout clause? How does all this stuff break down? None of us know this stuff. That being said, I still think that Nintendo probably could have been working harder and maybe spending more money to convince these companies to bring these games to its brand new console in this first year or 2 years. At least enough so to have been able to announce that some of these things will be coming. You know, a step was taken with that infographic that showed every single third-party developer, like, on the planet when the Switch was first revealed. That's a step to say, obviously, they've done something to have all these companies say, yes, we are open to developing on your Nintendo Switch platform. Yes, that's great. But now, we're a couple of months in, E3 just came and went, and it was like the first-party show, man. There was almost nothing coming from these other companies. And it's like, well, if you're all on board, why don't you have anything to show or announce or even just talk about right now? I think that absolutely at least 50% of the problem with the third-party situation does fall on Nintendo. You know, Nintendo should be making it appealing, and I think they've been trying, to be fair. I do think that they want this stuff. They've basically said it, but they obviously haven't been successful. They need to make it appealing for these developers. These developers need to see that there's a value for their games on the console. Like, it's not a black and white world we live in, you guys. I don't look at stuff like this. Black and white, there's gray areas all over the place, man. It's not just Nintendo's dropped the ball. They're doomed. They don't know what they're doing, and the Switch is garbage. Like, it's not that simple. There's a lot of stuff at play to make these things happen, and I think that everyone shares some of the blame. The online thing, boy oh boy, that's a whole different ball of wax, because we don't really have all the details. We have some of the basics right now, and I talked about this. A lot of what we know sounds pretty darn good. I love the price point. I love what they're doing with, like, the, you know, you have access to these free downloadable NES and Super NES games for as long as you pay for the service. Some people wanted to cry and whine about that. That's their prerogative. I think it's fine. It's totally cool to me. Like, they're otherwise $5 downloadable games. If you're going to keep paying for the service, you have them. Big deal. Like, otherwise people would sign up for 30 days, one time for $4, download every game that's available, and then cancel the service. And then they just made out with, like, you know, 20 or 40 free freaking games. Like, I get what Nintendo's doing there. Like, it would be nice if it wasn't that way, but it's fine. We still get access to these games just for paying for a service we would ideally otherwise want to pay for. The mobile app, the headset, the voice chat, I don't even know what to think about it, you guys, and that is part of Nintendo's problem right now. Their messaging sucks, and I'm a little bit worried that their overall model and structure for this isn't going to be good. Now, to me, the most important thing is if the connection online is just stable and it's easy to you know, do matchmaking with games, and like their infrastructure actually works as far as connecting to a game and playing it online. That's the most important thing to me. That is worth $20 a year without question. But this other stuff people really care about, like the mobile app and the voice chat. I don't really care about it, but I admit it doesn't sound great, and I understand why people are mad, because I sometimes have to remind myself I don't really care about voice chat and video games online, but I know a lot of people do. It's important. I get it. Nintendo should be up to snuff when it comes to this. They should be at least on par batting average, you know, with what the rest of the guys in the industry are doing. And right now, while we don't yet know, it seems like they're behind that curve. And that is a problem, because it's a huge component to successful gaming nowadays, is playing online, talking to your friends online, matchmaking online, releasing games that are online, which Nintendo is doing very well, by the way. So whatever's happening there and how it's going to play out, we don't yet know. My hope, what I think is happening, and what my hope is that when they release the beta version of the app later this fall, before they actually release the paid service next year, I think they are going to be paying attention to feedback, paying attention to what works, listening to us talk about what works and what doesn't, and I absolutely believe Nintendo is in a place right now in 2017 and 2018 where they will, specifically with the online thing, listen to people and fine-tune it and make it better and make it worthwhile by the time it actually launches in 2018. I believe that that's what they're going to do. Why else would they even release a beta version of the online service? They would just put it out there and start making money ASAP. The fact that they're willing to do this, more so than ever, tells me that they're willing to hopefully listen. But as it stands right now, it's a big, confusing, cumbersome, dumb-ass mess, and it doesn't make any sense, and Nintendo should be way more forthcoming with what's going on, and that even goes to the Virtual Console as well. They're keeping way too much stuff close to their chest right now. You know, everyone wants apps. We want YouTube and Netflix and stuff on internet browsers, you know. I get it. That stuff's important, I guess. You know, I don't really need it on the Switch, but I get why people want it, because they care about that stuff on their gaming platforms, I guess, and that's fine. Nintendo needs to start letting the information drip, man. Give us the details. Stop being so coy. It's not really advantageous to you or to us, the gamer. So, at the end of the day, this whole crazy conversation aside, I think that we can all just probably relax here. The way I see Nintendo and the Switch playing out is overwhelmingly positive, like without question. Are there problems? Yes. Did I discuss those problems? You betcha. Does Nintendo need to fix those problems way sooner than later? Without question, they absolutely do. Will they fix them sooner than later? It's probably doubtful. Nintendo is as great as they are and as different as we see them right now. They're still, to a degree, the same old Nintendo. The Nintendo with part of their heads up their own butts, not quite sure how to really translate everything to the current gamer and feel modern in some respects. But you know what? They're doing so many other things so fantastically that for me, I don't mind giving them time. Like, does it suck we're not getting third-party multiplats sooner than later, or maybe ever? Yeah, it hurts me, because I love those games and I would like to play them on my Switch. Am I going to be playing my Switch any less because of it? Nope. Because ARMS is great, Zelda's great, Mario's going to be great, Splatoon's going to be great, Fire Emblem, Xenoblade. How did I forget freaking Xenoblade? Like, I mean, obviously the list goes on and on. Like, games that make us want to turn our Switches on and play them are coming steadily. All the freaking time. More than I even want to counter-spend money on, to tell you the truth, but I will. So there's nothing really hindering my enjoyment of what Nintendo's current console is right now, despite their problems. Now, when you think about the long term, you think about 2019, 2020, whatever Nintendo's going to be doing at those years with this console, that's when the problems with the voice chat, the mobile app, and the third parties becomes a bigger deal. And maybe in 2 or 3 years, we have to have this conversation again, and that could be potentially very enlightening to the situation. But right now, problems aside, I think Nintendo's going to continue to ride out success, you guys, and we can all, you know, be unhappy and complain about this and that, things that are absolutely problems and worth complaining about. But I'm willing to kind of more see the positive. You know, it's a shame. I talked about this to the podcast guys too. Going into E3, it was amazing. Like, the world of Nintendo was bright. Everyone was loving it. Everyone was happy about it. And Nintendo was doing all the right things. Marketing was great. Switch is selling great. Your games are great. Your future lineup looks great. And then after E3, because of a few dropped balls by Nintendo, admittedly, absolutely, I mean, a lot of the conversation in the industry and from certain articles has really gotten negative really quickly. And I feel like we can talk about the mistakes a company is making and what they need to do to fix them without spinning the entire narrative to they're idiots, they're done, this is stupid, sell your Nintendo Switches, it's game over. I think it got way too harsh and way too negative too quickly. I definitely am not saying to ignore the problems. I've talked about the problems in this video and in previous ones, and they need to be addressed, but no company is without its problems. So why it got so toxic so quickly around Nintendo, I don't have that answer. I want Nintendo to fix this stuff. I don't know that they're going to fix it very soon. It's the one problem I have is I don't think we're going to see these issues fixed anytime soon. I think the online thing might be a little bit of a mess when it launches. I don't think it's going to be another 2 years before we see third-party multiplats. And the system isn't going to get any more powerful anytime soon. So it's a shame to see Nintendo still doing some stupid things, but everything else is so great. So at this point, I think I've beaten this dead horse even deader than it already was by the time I started the conversation. But hey, this has been, you know, my opinion, my perspective on Nintendo as a company and on the Switch currently. And obviously the message I'm leaving you with is Rob's opinion, not yours. If you're mad, if you hate Nintendo, if you're pissed about third parties and mobile apps and stuff, keep on with the keeping on. You do you, man. I'm not telling anyone not to do themselves. But my opinion, and hopefully it sheds some light on the situation for you, is like, you know what? It still looks pretty great. The future of the Switch looks great, man. Like, if anyone thinks the Switch isn't still going to be a hit with great games to play even in 2018, you are crazy. Whether it's only Nintendo games or whether third parties do jump on board by next year, we're going to have a lot of games to play this year and in next year. 2019 will be a different story. But for the immediate future, the next 2 years, I think we're in pretty good shape. Nintendo's going to keep making money, keep selling out, keep giving us great games, and I think that's all we can really ask for any company who makes a console for us to play video games on. So that's it, you guys. That's the way things are, the way Rob sees it, the way I see things. They're not really so bad, are they? That's what I think. So, I don't know. Thanks for tuning in to this video, guys. Obviously curious to hear the comments, your guys' opinions for anyone who managed to make it all the way through this very long video. Very curious to hear this conversation. You know what? If you hated this conversation and you hate me and you didn't like what I had to say, all these nice things about Nintendo, you can thumbs down the video. You can unsubscribe, which is probably the best thing to do because this won't be a healthy relationship going forward if so. And then just leave it at that. Bye-bye. See ya. You can just go follow other people who spin a message that's more interesting to you. But that's how I see things. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. I always appreciate your fanship and your viewership of myself and Rule of Two Review. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.